She had a brief phone call with her grandmother in Cantonese. By the next morning, her job was gone. What could she have possibly said to make a billionaire lose it? Just a few words, in a language barely anyone nearby could understand, were enough to shatter Maylin Carter's stable, well-kept world. It happened on a quiet Thursday, just after 2:30 p.m. The lunch crowd had finally thinned at Ember and Ivy, a sleek, upscale bistro nestled in the heart of Pacific Heights. The kind of place that charged $36 for roasted duck breast and booked you 3 weeks out for a midweek dinner. The ambiance was precise. Warm tones, hushed music, and plates that looked like they belonged in a gallery. Most of the clientele wore tailored suits and diamond cufflinks, and never once asked about prices. They wanted quiet, efficiency, and elegance. Nothing more, nothing less. Maylin was by the bar, gently polishing an already gleaming serving tray. Her crisp, dark uniform fit like a shield. She'd worn it for over 3 years. She was swift, composed, and kind, without ever being insincere. Regulars greeted her by name. Her co-workers sometimes joked and called her the anchor. Nothing could shake her. Not a spilled wine glass, not a loud customer, not even the occasional entitled guest who wouldn't look her in the eye. But what happened that afternoon had nothing to do with customer service. It wasn't about a mistake. Her phone vibrated once, a single buzz. Her grandmother, Nai, was calling from Kaohsiung. That was rare. She only called when something important happened. Maylin slipped behind the service counter, between the liquor cabinet and the espresso machine, and answered in Cantonese. Her voice was gentle, respectful. They exchanged a few lines, a check-in, talk of a missed doctor's appointment, confusion over prescriptions. It lasted under half a minute. She hung up, stowed her phone, and returned to wiping down a corner. Booth. Have you ever experienced something like this? Drop a comment below, and tell us where you're tuning in from. Your story matters too. She had no idea he had been listening. Seated in the velvet-lined VIP booth, table 9, was Adrian Blakewood, sipping a rare Korean single malt, neat. He wasn't just a loyal customer, he was the regular, a venture capitalist with deep pockets and a deeper ego. The kind of man who craved routine. The kind who expected the same server, the same greeting, and his sparkling water chilled with exactly 2 ice cubes, not one more. Maylin had served him more than a dozen times before. Never a single complaint. Until that day. Something was different. His gaze lingered on her, not with interest, with doubt. There was a flicker of distaste on his face, so fast it could have gone unnoticed. He stayed silent. But by sunrise, Maylin no longer had a job, and that's where things begin to twist. Maylin Carter wasn't the kind to stand out. She didn't chase attention. At 27, she had perfected the art of blending in while quietly mastering her role. 5 days a week, she clocked in early at Ember and Ivy, hair tied in a neat low bun, barefaced except for lip balm and, on tired mornings, a bit of concealer. She moved through the space with discipline, head down, eyes forward, voice only used to welcome guests. At home, Maylin lived in a modest one-bedroom apartment in Sunset Park. She filled it with leafy plants she whispered to, and a laptop filled with poems she never showed anyone. Her heart, however, belonged to her Nai. The woman who raised her after a tragic accident claimed both her parents when she was 7. Back then, her grandmother took her to southern Taiwan, fed her scallion pancakes and old dramas, and taught her Cantonese as naturally as she taught her kindness and resolve. They returned to the U.S. when she was 13. But the language, the rhythm of home, never left her. She prayed in it. She dreamed in it. She was it. Yet here in Pacific Heights, none of that really counted. To most, Mei Lin was just another young black woman working at a trendy restaurant. People made assumptions that she was born and raised in San Francisco, that she only knew English, that she was just in it for the paycheck. She never corrected them. What was the point? "I didn't know you spoke French," a guest once remarked, after overhearing her chatting on the phone with her Guatemalan roommate. "It's Cantonese," she had replied with a polite smile, and the man looked at her as if she'd just spoken in code from outer space. Inside the restaurant, the world rarely changed. Her manager, Carla, used to host the front desk and still held on to that fake, trained grin. She cared about symmetry, ironed uniforms, aligned glassware, and staff who did what they were told. Mei Lin wasn't praised or promoted, but she was trusted. She trained the newcomers. She covered shifts no one wanted. She kept her head down and her record clean. Her closest ally was Joel, a soft-spoken buser of Filipino and Puerto Rican descent, who'd been there nearly 10 years and knew the place better than anyone. Joel was quick-witted, observant, and always kept a quiet eye on Mei Lin. They had grown close over midnight meals and venting sessions after long shifts, sharing stories about working double just to be seen. "You ever feel like we wear invisible uniforms underneath these ones?" Joel had once asked. Mei Lin just nodded. It was like living as two versions of herself, one the world acknowledged and one they ignored. Still, she never let resentment build. That wasn't her style. She'd seen too much struggle in her early years to let small slights throw her off balance. Her mission was clear: do her job, support Nai, and save enough to eventually apply for culinary school. Her dreams were quiet but persistent, always alive beneath the surface. As for Adrian Blakewood, she didn't think twice about him. Just another rich man with an ego. Entitled, yes, but mostly harmless. He had a revolving door of dinner companions, spoke to staff like they were background noise, and always left precisely 15% tips, like generosity was beneath him. But Mei Lin let it slide. Every time. Until that rainy Thursday. Downpour had scared off the usual crowd. Only 2 tables were filled. One was a young couple locked in a tense debate about a prenup. The other was Adrian, seated alone, watching the raindrops streak down the glass like they personally offended him. Mei Lin didn't notice him watching as she stepped aside to take the call. She didn't think it mattered. Her voice was low, her words gentle. Nothing harsh, nothing unprofessional. Just a granddaughter checking in. But Adrian didn't appreciate it, and Carla, as always, was one step behind him, scrambling to stay in his good graces, as if he carried the lease to the entire restaurant in his back pocket. That's when the stillness in the air began to shift. The kind of silence that hums before something breaks. The call lasted under half a minute. Mei Lin stood tucked beside the espresso station, partially hidden, but ready to jump back in if needed. She didn't speak loudly, didn't make a scene, just murmured calmly in Cantonese as her grandmother mentioned a mistake with her blood. Pressure pills. Mei Lin reassured her, reminded her to drink more water, and promised to sort things out after her shift. Then she ended the call, slipped the phone into her apron pocket, and moved toward table 5. Someone had asked for more. Sparkling water, but the VIP table wasn't empty. Adrian Blakewood had seen. From where he was seated, Adrian had a perfect view of Mei Lin. He leaned back in his chair, arms folded, his whiskey untouched, eyes locked, his expression unreadable, cold. unblinking. Mei Lin didn't notice at first. She moved through the room as she always did, efficient, focused. But Joel noticed. Standing by the bar, folding napkins into perfect squares, his eyes kept bouncing between Adrian and Mei Lin. Something about it didn't sit right. The energy in the room shifted. Not loudly, but like a heater turned off in winter. Subtle, slow, uncomfortable. When Mei Lin approached Adrian's table, her posture was calm, steady. "Would you care for another drink, Mr. Blakewood?" she asked. He didn't respond right away. He just stared at her, like he was weighing something. Then with a smirk, he muttered, "Didn't realize this place hired informants." She blinked. "Excuse me? You speak Chinese now?" His tone sharp. That's what that was, right? She hesitated. "Yes. I was speaking with my grandmother." He scoffed. "Sure you were." Mei Lin stayed still. What was that supposed to mean? "If you're going to make secret calls during work," he said, leaning forward just slightly, "maybe use a language people actually recognize." She stood straighter. "I stepped off the floor. It was personal. I'm sorry if it bothered you." He didn't reply, just waved her away like a fly. She walked off, not out of fear, but because there was no point in fighting shadows. Joel was watching her now, eyebrows raised, mouthing, "What was that?" Mei Lin shook her head. She didn't have an answer. The rest of the shift dragged on like cement in rain, heavy, slow, wrong. Adrian never called her back. He didn't file a complaint. He simply stayed another half hour, typing on his phone, then signed the bill and left. Not a word, not a glance. Mei Lin tried to shrug it off. Maybe he'd had a bad day. Maybe foreign languages unsettled men like him. There was always a reason. And people like Adrian were fragile in strange, unspoken ways. When she clocked out, Joel met her near the lockers. "That was weird, Mei." "What was?" "The way he looked at you, like you were decoding messages from space." She zipped up her hoodie. People get weird when they can't put you in a box. "You think he'll say something?" She shrugged. "Let him." She didn't say it like a challenge. She said it like a worn-out fact. Let him complain. Let him twist the story however he wanted. She had done nothing wrong. That night, Mei Lin made herself dinner and called Nai back. They laughed about something silly. Talked about the weather in California, the market in Kaohsiung. She went to bed early and slept without worry. But the next morning, her name wasn't on the schedule. At first, she thought it was a mistake. Maybe a swap she forgot. Maybe a new roster. But when she reached Carla's office, something already felt off. The door was slightly open. Inside, Carla sat with a folder in front of her, eyes darting like she'd practiced this moment. Mei Lin knocked gently. "Hey," she said. "I noticed I'm not. Can you come in for a minute?" Carla cut her off, still not making eye contact. Mei Lin stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind her, and in that moment she knew. This wasn't about scheduling. It was something much worse. She sat across from Carla, back straight, hands on her legs. She wasn't nervous. Not yet. But something about Carla's demeanor made the walls feel like they were closing in. She cleared her throat, reaching for the folder in front of her like it might deflect whatever came next. "So," she began, "I wanted to have this Conversation in person. Because I respect you. That was the first alarm bell. No one says that unless something bad is about to follow. Mei Lin kept her face unreadable. Okay. Carla hesitated. We've been looking into a concern raised during yesterday's shift, Mei Lin blinked. Concern? Yes, Carla said, opening the folder, though it was completely empty. A guest expressed discomfort with the way you conducted yourself, specifically the phone call taken during service. Mei Lin narrowed her eyes slightly. I wasn't on the floor. I was behind the service station. It was quick, personal, nothing inappropriate. Carla gave a slow nod, but her expression didn't shift. It's not just the call, she added. It's how it came across. Professionalism, brand image, guest perception. Mei Lin's voice grew tighter. So, this is because I spoke in Cantonese. Finally, Carla looked her in the eyes. And in that glance, there it was. Guilt, discomfort, fear. It's complicated, Carla said. Some guests don't like when things feel unfamiliar. So I'm being let go because someone got uncomfortable hearing Cantonese in a restaurant that serves Vietnamese pollo and Malaysian sambal shrimp? Carla flinched. It's not personal, Mei Lin. You've been a strong employee. But this is about protecting the standard. Heat rose in Mei Lin's chest. Not anger, but that hollow, aching kind of disappointment. The kind you don't scream about. The kind that settles in silence, in realizing someone you work with doesn't have the strength to speak the truth. This was Adrian, wasn't it? Carla didn't answer immediately. Then finally, he's a key investor. You understand how it works? Mei Lin exhaled slowly through her nose. There was nothing left to fight. You could have said something, she said. You could have told him I didn't break any rules. I have a job too, Carla replied, her voice smaller now. I don't make the final calls. Mei Lin stood. You don't have to pretend you respect me, she said. Just hand over the paperwork. Carla slid a final paycheck across the desk, along with a typed separation letter. The words, "Failure to meet brand expectations," were printed in soft gray at the top. Mei Lin folded it in half without reading further. She didn't need to. When she stepped out, Joel was already by the lockers. One look at her face, and he understood. They actually fired you? Mei Lin nodded. Over a phone call. I guess Cantonese is a threat now, she said quietly. Joel leaned against the wall, arms folded tight, eyes scanning the ceiling like he was trying to keep from exploding. They're not even pretending, he muttered. He didn't like hearing something he couldn't understand, and instead of calling him out, they fired you. Mei Lin didn't say anything. She was too focused on keeping her hands from shaking. People think racism is always loud, she finally said. They think it's slurs, or shouting, or people in hoods. But most of the time, it looks like this. A meeting room. Smiles. Words like image and comfort, all just different ways of saying, this is where we think you belong. She took off her apron for the last time, folded it with care, and laid it gently on the bench. You sure? You don't want to push back? Joel asked. We could go to HR, make it public. Mei Lin paused. There was fire in her chest, but her heart felt tired. I just need a day, she said. As she stepped into the parking lot, the Pacific Heights sun felt too harsh. It had shone on her 100 times before, but now it felt different. Not because the world had shifted, but because it hadn't. She sat in her car for a long while, didn't turn the key, didn't cry, just stared ahead. Then she pulled out her phone and typed a short message to Nai. Got let go today. I'll call later. Love you. She scrolled through her gallery, stopped at a photo of the two of them making dumplings last winter, and stared until her pulse settled. But what Mei Lin didn't know, what no one knew, was that her quiet moment was about to ripple far beyond anything she imagined. She didn't go public. She wasn't trying to make noise. She just wanted space to breathe. The next day she stayed home. Nai called, her voice full of worry. I'm okay, Mei Lin said. Just taking a break. I needed one anyway. She didn't want her grandmother stressed about something that felt so pointless, so unfair, so exhausting. But Joel couldn't sit on it. That afternoon he wrote a short post in a private Facebook group for hospitality workers in the Bay Area. No names, no restaurant mentioned, just a single paragraph. A co-worker of mine got let go yesterday. Not for being late, not for being rude, not for breaking any policy. She took a 30-second call in Cantonese, in a restaurant that serves Asian fusion food. A guest didn't like it. Now she's out. Let that sink in. He didn't expect anything, just needed to say it out loud. But by evening the post had been screenshotted, shared and reposted across multiple public pages. Comments poured in. Unreal. This is what quiet racism looks like. Same thing happened to my sister. Different language. Same treatment. Someone guessed the restaurant. Someone else confirmed it. By the next day, Ember and Ivy was... And then came the Yelp reviews. Sharp, brutal, relentless. Someone even dug up a video of Adrian Blakewood speaking at a tech summit, posting it with the caption, "This the guy who gets women fired for talking to their grandma in Cantonese." Lynn's phone didn't stop buzzing. Journalists, supporters, strangers flooding her inbox with encouragement, suggestions, and a few wild theories that actually made her laugh. But she didn't answer. Not yet. She needed space. Back at Ember and Ivy, things were crumbling. Carla was spiraling. Staff were quitting in the middle of service. A hostess walked out mid-reservation check-in. One of the sous chefs dumped an entire tray of braised duck into the trash, untied his apron, and walked away without saying a word. That evening, Joel called. "They're in full panic mode," he said. "Management wants us to sign NDAs." Mei Lin raised an eyebrow. "For what? They afraid we'll leak their soy glaze recipe?" "They're afraid we'll talk," Joel replied. "Little late for that. This thing's already on fire, I." Lin went quiet. "I didn't ask for any of this." "I know," he said. "But you didn't do anything wrong either." She sat on her couch, staring up at the ceiling. "Do you think I should say something?" Joel paused. "I think you should do whatever feels right. But just so you know, people are listening now." The next morning, Mei Lin opened her notes app and began to type. It wasn't a rant. It wasn't a plea, just a truth. "My name is Mei Lin. Last week, I was fired from a restaurant in Pacific Heights after a customer complained about me speaking Cantonese to my grandmother on the phone. I wasn't rude. I wasn't late. I wasn't unprofessional. I was just speaking to someone I love in a language that's part of who I am. And that was enough to lose my job. If you've ever felt small because of the way you speak, where you're from, or who you are, I see you." She posted it on Twitter. Within 12 hours, it had over 40,000 likes. Podcasts reached out. Local news stations asked for interviews. An Asian American advocacy group shared her words. Then, black media accounts reposted it too. What followed was a wave. A conversation, larger than Mei Lin had ever imagined. Language, identity, power, fear. People began sharing their own stories, being told to speak English at work, being mocked for their accents, being pushed out of jobs for not fitting the mold. Mei Lin read as many as she could. Some made her cry, some made her furious, but mostly they made her feel like she wasn't alone. Nai Nai called again. "I saw the news," she said in Cantonese. "Are you okay?" "I'm okay," Mei Lin answered, voice soft but steady. "Just tired." "You always had a strong voice," her grandmother said, "even when you were little." Mei Lin smiled. It took losing her job to remember her voice. But Mei Lin's story wasn't done. Not yet. Not until she faced the ones who tried to silence it. 3 days after her post went viral, an unfamiliar name popped into her inbox. Subject line, request for conversation. Ember and Ivy response. The message was short, formal, frosty. Ms. Carter, we are aware of recent public attention surrounding your departure from Ember and Ivy. We would like to explore a resolution and ensure both sides are heard. Please let us know if you are available for a brief meeting. J. Roth, Legal Counsel. She didn't reply right away. She read it, then read it again, and once more, just to feel the weight of it. Then she closed her laptop and walked out the door. The ocean was only 20 minutes away, and the rhythm of the waves helped her think. They didn't want to fix it. They wanted her quiet. But something inside her had changed. She wasn't afraid anymore. The next morning, she answered.
She said yes. They met in a small, sterile office suite near Westwood. J. Roth was the kind of man who wore his gray suit like it came with a script. His voice was polite, soft, forgettable. Carla was there too, perched on the edge of her chair.
Like it might bite, hands clasped, eyes lowered. Mei Lin didn't dress up. Just jeans, a plain white t-shirt, no earrings, no armor, just her truth. Roth began smoothly. Let me be clear. We're prepared to offer a formal apology, along with a financial settlement, in exchange for closure on this matter. Mei Lin tilted her head. Closure for who? Roth gave a careful smile. We understand emotions are high, but our client has received threats. The restaurant's reputation is suffering. Mei Lin leaned in slightly. You're worried about a restaurant's reputation. I lost my income. I lost my peace over a phone call. We're not here to argue the details, Roth said flatly. She turned her gaze to Carla. You knew it was wrong, didn't you? Carla looked down, didn't speak. Mei Lin didn't look away. I followed every rule. I showed up early, stayed late, never made trouble. But one wealthy man felt uncomfortable hearing a language he didn't understand. And suddenly, I was a threat to your image. Roth shifted in his chair, but said nothing. We're offering 3 months of severance, Roth said carefully, along with a written apology. Mei Lin let the silence stretch. She didn't flinch. She looked at him until he glanced away. Then calmly, I want the apology to be public. No NDA. And I want it to say clearly, I was fired because someone didn't like hearing me speak my own language. No vague phrasing, no half-truths. That, or there's no deal. Roth froze. Carla finally spoke. Her voice shook. We'll release a public statement, she said. You didn't do anything wrong. I should have said something. I was just scared to lose my job. Mei Lin nodded. Her voice didn't waver. I did lose mine. That afternoon, Ember and Ivy posted across all their platforms. We acknowledge that the termination of Maylin Carter was handled in a manner that failed to uphold our values of inclusion, respect, and diversity. Speaking another language, especially one tied to family and heritage, should never be a cause for dismissal. We sincerely apologize to Maylin and to the wider community. We are actively reviewing internal policies and employee training. Moving forward. The internet responded, some with praise, some with criticism. Too little, too late. Finally, accountability. Just PR damage control. But Maylin didn't care. She had told her truth, and now it lived beyond her. A week later, she sat on a bench overlooking the bay. Joel passed her a cold soda. "You did it," he said. Maylin shrugged. "I didn't do it to win." "No," Joel replied. "You did it so they'd finally see." She smiled, a small, tired smile. "People talk about finding your voice like it's something that gets lost. But I never lost mine. I just learned how to make it smaller." Joel nodded. "They made you feel like it was too loud." "It never was," she said softly. "It was never too loud. Maylin didn't just get fired, she got free." "And freedom? Freedom has a sound. It sounds like speaking your own language without fear, with your chin up, no matter who's watching." She never went back to restaurants, not because she couldn't, but because she refused to make herself small again. A month. Later, she used part of her settlement to enroll in a part-time culinary program at a local college. Nothing fancy. No viral kitchen. Just stainless steel counters, sharp knives, and a room full of people who actually listened. She started a blog, too. At first, just recipes. Photos of her grandmother's food. Scallion pancakes, soy-braised eggs, beef noodle, soup. But the posts grew. She began writing about language, about being black and multilingual, about what it means to be seen as confusing simply for being whole. The blog took off. Readers wrote in. Her inbox filled with people who said her words made them feel understood. Maybe for the first time. A woman from East Bay shared that she'd stopped speaking Spanish at work years ago, because her co-workers said it made them uncomfortable. Teenager in Fresno played Maylin's post for his entire class during a school project on cultural identity. Messages poured in from overseas. People in Brazil, Canada, South Korea, offering solidarity, sharing their own stories. Maylin never asked to be the center of anything. But life has a way of handing you the mic when you least expect it. This time, she didn't hand it back. She still calls Nai every few days. They still speak in Cantonese. Only now, Maylin answers the phone on speaker. No whispers. No hiding. Just living. And if someone finds that uncomfortable, that's their discomfort to carry. Not hers. Here's the truth. Silence doesn't protect you. It just lets others erase you quietly. Maylin didn't organize a protest. She didn't set anything on fire. All she did was speak. And to some, that was the loudest, most dangerous thing she could have done. But she didn't speak to fight. She spoke to exist. And that is more than enough. So if you've ever been told to lower your voice, play it safe, or shrink yourself to make others more comfortable, remember this. You don't owe your silence to anyone, not for a paycheck. Not for peacekeeping. Not to fit into someone else's small idea of who you're allowed to be. Your story matters. Your voice matters. So speak. Speak loudly. Speak honestly. Speak in the language your soul was born knowing. And if this story touched something in you, if it reminded you of a moment